4 months ago, I moved to Ohio to start a new job in Columbus. I managed to find an apartment just 15 minutes away from work, which was a significant improvement over my previous situation. Back in my old job, I had to commute for an hour each way, drastically cutting into my sleep time. Settling into my new job was a relief, and I soon started considering the prospect of dating. I noticed a few interesting women at work, and although my initial attempts were unsuccessful, I learned a lot about perseverance and resilience. My first attempt to ask someone out did not go as planned. She turned out to be uninterested in men and was actually dating another woman from the finance department, a revelation that caught me off guard. Undeterred, I approached another colleague, a friendly and outgoing woman who was always kind to me. However, she declined my invitation for a drink, explaining that she was married with children and her husband wouldn't appreciate it. My final try was with a receptionist who seemed to enjoy my jokes and appeared approachable. Unfortunately, she also turned me down, which left my confidence significantly shaken. After these setbacks, I decided to focus solely on my work for the next few weeks, avoiding any further romantic pursuits. One Friday evening, after a long day at work, I grabbed some takeout, opened a can of beer, and turned on the TV. An ad for a dating website caught my eye, promising to find the perfect match for a small fee. Desperate to find someone special, I signed up for 3 different dating sites, hoping to increase my chances of success. Creating an intriguing profile was my primary goal, aiming to attract the right kind of match. However, I quickly discovered that online dating was not as straightforward as it seemed. Many profiles were misleading, and I encountered several instances of people being completely different from their online personas. It felt like navigating through a maze of deception. Finally, a promising match appeared. We exchanged emails and agreed to meet the following week at a downtown bar at 8 p.m., each of us bringing a book to recognize each other. I arrived 10 minutes early and found a quiet table. Right at 8 p.m., a tall, attractive woman walked in holding a book. She looked around, spotted me, and walked over with a smile. Introducing herself as Samantha, she confessed that she had used the name Sally online. I smiled back, introducing myself and feeling a bit relieved that the initial meeting was going smoothly. Samantha was captivating and confident, easing my initial nervousness. We chatted comfortably, and she laughed off my concern about my height compared to hers, emphasizing that personality mattered more. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, and I felt a genuine connection. However, our evening took an unexpected turn when another tall woman with bright red hair entered the bar, also holding a book. Samantha suggested we go somewhere quieter, and I agreed, intrigued by her mysterious charm. As we left the bar, I noticed Samantha glancing back at the red-haired woman, who seemed to be observing us. Samantha's demeanor changed, and she became more serious. She led me to her car, and we drove out of Columbus, heading towards a small town called Newark. The drive felt longer than expected, and the surroundings grew increasingly secluded. We veered off onto a barely lit side road, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. We eventually arrived at a large, old house hidden among the trees. Instead of stopping at the front, Samantha drove around to the side, where 2 large barns stood under dim lights. I parked next to her, a mix of excitement and nervousness swirling within me. She led me across the yard towards the house, past several old cars parked near the barns. When I commented on the cars, she explained that they were family keepsakes, not ready to be let go. A strong, unpleasant smell hit me as we approached the back door, and Samantha explained that they kept pigs out back, apologizing for the odor. She paused at the door, asking if I had any pet allergies, which I did not. As the door opened, the light revealed an unexpected sight. Samantha called out, and a swarm of cats rushed into the kitchen, all vying for her attention. I realized that she was an avid cat lover, which added to the already surreal atmosphere. Samantha led me to a cozy lounge decorated with cat paraphernalia and dominated by a large fireplace. Despite the warmth of the room, something felt off. She left to get drinks, and I couldn't shake the feeling that the evening was about to take a bizarre turn. When she returned, I found myself struggling to stand, my legs feeling like rubber. Samantha's demeanor shifted as she watched me with an unsettling smile. As I fought to stay conscious, Samantha revealed her true intentions. She spoke of collecting memories, moments, and sometimes people who came into her life, unable to leave whenever they pleased. I realized with horror that she had incapacitated me, rendering me helpless. She explained that the method would make it hard for me to move but wouldn't affect my breathing. My mind raced, but my body refused to cooperate. Samantha continued to talk, her voice now carrying a chilling undertone. She showed me a collection of cat figurines, each representing someone who had visited and never left. Panic set in as I grasped the gravity of my situation. I was trapped, a pawn in her twisted game. The cats around us seemed to sense the change, their eyes fixed on me with an intensity that mirrored my own fear. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, a bright light shone directly in my face. A commanding voice ordered Samantha to stop, revealing the red-haired woman from the bar. She held a flashlight and a gun, announcing that the police were on their way. The woman, Sarah, was Samantha's sister, and she had been trying to protect me. The police arrived just in time, arresting Samantha and rescuing me from a grim fate. After 2 days in the hospital recovering from the ordeal, I learned that Samantha had intercepted my emails with Sarah and had posed as her sister to lure me into her trap. Samantha was charged with multiple murders, her full list of victims still unknown. The ordeal taught me a harsh lesson about the dangers of blind dates and the deceptive nature of people. In an unexpected twist, Sarah and I began dating after the incident. She had saved my life, and our shared experience brought us closer together. Reflecting on the surreal events, I realized how close I had come to a fatal end. Yet, through this nightmare, I found something truly good in my relationship with Sarah. Her bravery and compassion turned a horrifying experience into a chance for genuine connection, and for that, I am forever grateful. At 22, I decided it was time to leave my mom and dad's house. Paying for my own place was hard, and I thought maybe it was time to look for a boyfriend because I felt lonely. It wasn't just about the money. Having someone else could help with my bills. I didn't ask my parents for money because they had their own troubles, and I left home to make things easier for them. I started using an app called HeartMatch to find someone. Soon I found a guy, and it felt like luck was on my side. This guy, let's call him John, seemed nice when we chatted online. I thought we would get along in real life. I didn't want to wait too long to meet him because waiting has never been easy for me. This is how I felt back then. John and I met at a place in the city called Game Bar. It's a place where you can drink and play video games, a fun spot. We met on a Saturday because I didn't have to work. We played games there for a few hours, careful not to spend too much. We really clicked. John was kind, not like the boys from high school. He saw me as a person, and that was enough for me to remember him forever. He said we should meet up again, and I agreed. After the Game Bar, we grabbed some food and then went our separate ways. I felt like this date could lead to something more. I was happy to see him again. Over the next few weeks, John became special to me. And after a month, I kissed him. He didn't see it coming as he had never made a move. He always acted like we were just friends, which I actually liked. That's what made me like him more. Eventually, we started sharing our troubles with each other. He was a student with a job, so he was always busy. I talked about my struggle with bills and a job that paid too little. Slowly, we began to think about living together. He liked the idea, but wanted to wait. I was impatient, but I respected his wish to wait. Looking back, I might have been too eager, but I let him decide when he was ready. I didn't want to pressure him. After 2 months, he decided it was the right time. He had been living near his college. Once he moved in, things got easier. He could go to school easily, and I could manage my bills better. We were happy until he finished college 3 years later. Then John started to pull away. I couldn't figure out why. Maybe it was his friends talking to him. I try not to guess these things without knowing, but that's all I can think of. He stopped wanting to spend time with me. John stopped wanting to sleep in the same bed as me. He would go out all night and not tell me when or if he was coming back. It hurt that some days he wouldn't even speak to me. Then one day, while I was at work, he moved out without giving me any reason. I never stopped him from doing what he wanted. Maybe he just got bored of me. After he left, I was back to not being able to pay my bills and feeling lonely. He was gone, and I didn't understand what I did wrong, which made me feel really sad. I don't know if I deserved this, so I was confused about how to feel. Once I started feeling a bit better, I went back to HeartMatch to find someone new. This time it took a long time to find someone. I was looking for someone who didn't just say, "Hey, baby." It's surprising how many people start a conversation like that. I messaged a guy named David. David seemed like what I needed. I realized I wasn't really looking for a boyfriend, but someone to help me through my sadness. He said the right things and agreed with everything I said. I thought he wanted a relationship, but he just wanted to hang out sometimes and talk like therapy sessions. I met him trying to recreate what I had with John. I was desperate to make David better than John, but that was a mistake. David told me he wasn't John and he didn't want to be. I kept saying sorry whenever I compared them, and I felt bad for even trying. David was more like a therapist than a date. Maybe that's what I needed him for, but looking back, I regret using him like that. So I never heard from John again. I thought he must have moved on to something better and hated him for leaving without a reason. I tried to convince myself it was all his fault to make myself feel better, even though I didn't know the whole story. Thinking about it too much made my mind wander. David and I also started to drift apart. I guess I was using him for therapy more than friendship. I said I would have paid him for his time, but he said that wasn't what we were about. I was a mess, still struggling with money and now having pushed 2 people away. I felt terrible, so I kept dealing with my problems and a new wave of sadness. It was getting too hard to manage on my own. I moved back in with my parents to help them out. We all lived in a small trailer and things began to get better. Until one night I got drunk and went on HeartMatch again. I started chatting with random people. Among them, someone was willing to wait until I was sober to talk again. I didn't feel hopeful, but I kept going, and that's when things started to change for me. This person I started chatting with, Gray, turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Gray was smart and seemed to get what I had been through. He also didn't hesitate to tell me when I was making mistakes. We talked online for what felt like forever. I can't say exactly how long, but it felt like a year. One day, I bumped into him at a convenience store while I was picking up some drinks. I recognized him from his pictures and went up to him. He knew me too, and we ended up talking for hours right there. It felt like we were already good friends after all those months of chatting. Meeting him like that after all our talks felt so right. We began to see each other more and more. He knew about my tough situation, living in a tight space with my parents and all the messed up relationships I had. He asked me if moving in with him would make things better. I said it might, but I didn't want to seem like I was after his money. I didn't want to be that person who dates someone just to have an easier life. I was looking for real love. He told me something important, not to worry about those things. If it helps, then it's probably the right move. With my parents okay, I decided to move in with him. They were happy for me. And I kept my job to contribute so I didn't feel like I was just taking from him. He supported my decision to work and contribute. This positivity from everyone helped me climb out of my dark place quickly. But this isn't where the story stops, even though it starts to sound happy. There's more. A few years later, Gray asked me to marry him, and I said yes. We haven't rushed into marriage, learning that waiting makes things even better. Then, out of nowhere, after I got engaged, John somehow heard about it. He messaged me saying I should be alone forever. I asked him why he would say something like that, but he didn't really explain. He just said he left because I was boring and I didn't deserve happiness. This threw me into a panic, bringing back all my old anxieties. But why should his words matter now in my new life? It got under my skin for months. I was a mess, scared and breaking down, while Gray, my fiancé, tried to piece me back together. I showed him the awful messages and shared my fears. He stayed calm and patient through it all. But that wasn't the end of it. John began to follow us, turning up everywhere to scare and bother us. He'd mock us in public places during our walks, and he even figured out where we lived to torment us there. The things he said were too cruel to repeat, but Gray grew tired of his actions quickly. John's obsession escalated to him coming into our yard, trying to start a fire. I became too scared to leave the house. Gray assured me he'd handle it, telling me not to be scared or feel guilty about whatever happened next. Then one cold winter day, as we walked downtown, John decided to follow us again. Gray had warned me not to panic, which only made me more nervous. I'd never seen him so serious. Gray is a big man, not a fighter, but intimidating enough that you wouldn't want to anger him. And John was pushing him too far. When John thought he could secretly follow us down a deserted path, Gray acted. He told me to stay back and confronted John. It was like a scene straight out of a fight movie. One knew what to do, the other clearly did not. I watched in shock as Gray grabbed John by the neck, threw him to the ground, then picked him up and slammed him against the wall like he was nothing. I was terrified. Seeing this side of Gray was unexpected. After John hit the wall, Gray punched him, knocking him out cold. We left as fast as we could, hoping that would be the end of it. I was scared the police would get involved, but apparently people like John don't usually involve the cops. I haven't seen John since then. Now, Gray and I live a peaceful life, happier than ever. Gray also helped my parents move into a better place, ensuring they were well cared for. I'm so grateful for the wonderful people in my life. Thank you for watching. If you found these stories gripping, don't forget to subscribe for more spine-tingling content. For another hair-raising tale, check out our suggested video. And if you're hungry for more eerie encounters, dive into our playlist featuring similar chilling narratives.